like archaeology, whatever. So like those type of thing. And also I would need it to work practically. Like I would, it has to be working in my life. So that's why I do when I research, and I would try to find out what is true.
Like I said, I want to know, for me, like, a lot of Christians have told me as well, like, for example, like, Jesus has come back. Like, I've heard this for, like, so many times, for centuries. Jesus is coming in the moment now. Like, today, like, why do you think people still, like, say that, oh, this Jesus is coming back, he's coming back. Why do you think a lot of people say that?
Like it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to believe that if you don't believe in God. It doesn't make sense to believe that if you don't trust and see the Bible as a reliable source and a revelation from God. But if you believe that, and there's no logical problem with Jesus coming back, it makes sense. If the other things are true, it makes sense.
What if what things are true?
Pardon?
If what kind of things are true?
If the Bible is trustworthy, for example, and if God exists, if those premises are true, it's not logical incoherent to believe that He's alive and will come back.
So is the Christian message logically coherent?
Pardon?
You mentioned about logically coherent.
Coherent, logical, coherent.
Yeah. So is the essential Christian messages or doctrine coherent?
If you define coherent as something which is conceivable, you can think it. It's possible to think the idea. Yes.
Now if I say, I believe somebody says God exists and doesn't exist at the same time, would that be logically coherent?
No, it's not logical coherent to think that he exists and not exists at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So he either exists or not exists.
Yeah. So the Christian message, do you find it logically coherent? Because I don't. I'm a Muslim, and I find, in fact, most of the doctrines of Christianity, the Orthodox Christianity, they're not coherent. Using your words, logically coherent. Instead, many of the heresies that have gone by in history, they make more coherent sense than Orthodox Christian doctrines.
Then I disagree with you on that matter.
Okay.
I think that...
So give me examples of your main doctrines and how they're coherent, rather than me telling you what I find maybe I'm not looking at the right doctrines. So what are your main core doctrines of the gospel message?
I would believe that God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay.
That He's the creator, that He creates us in His image. He wants a relationship with us. That God is love by nature. So He's not just loving, but He is love. I would believe that there was a fall, yeah. So sin came into the world. That would be number 2. I would believe that Jesus came down and died for our sins. Jesus is God. I believe in one being, 3 persons, which is God. And I believe that He's going to destroy evil and fix the earth. Because the earth was destroyed, kind was destroyed, and He's one day gonna fix it.
Okay.
So one day He's coming back. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Basically, I've spoken to a lot of Christians and Muslims, right? And like according to the Islamic theology, right? Like for example, why? And for me, I want to know like what's your evidence to prove that like Muhammad was this true prophet, just true amazing guy? Right?
Yeah,
what evidence? Like for example, like apparently like even Prophet Muhammad, he said that when I don't know what was that cave that he got that revelation from. What was that cave? I can't remember.
Hira. Cave Hira.
But no one was there when he got that revelation from Angel Gabriel. So how would you know that he got this revelation from this Angel Gabriel when he was the only person there to get that revelation? Like how no one was there, like there was no witnesses, no one was there when he got those revelations from the Quran, right? So how would you know what's the proof or evidence to prove that Muhammad actually did got this revelation, the Quran, from this Angel Gabriel?
Brilliant question. I mean, I think there's few things that we need to clarify. In the cave of Hira, That was the first revelation, which is about 5 verses or 5 ayat of the Quran. That was it. All the subsequent revelation didn't happen there in the cave. It happened elsewhere, in front of people, in front of his family, and so on and so forth. At one point, when revelation was descending on him, he was on a camel or a horse, and the horse or camel could be seen descending on the sand, going down depressed on the sand because of the weight and loftiness of the revelation. This is all in our narrations. So the question is about eyewitness testimony. The first revelation, of course, he was alone. Yeah. But it wasn't that the whole Quran was somehow revealed in a cave. No, that was the first 5 verses out of 6,000 or so verses of the Quran, right? Okay. How do we know Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a prophet or not is a very important question to ask, because more than 1/5, it's like 1/5 to 1/4 of the population of this world is a Muslim, believes in him as a messenger of God, a prophet of God. So there has to be something.
But just because 1/5 of the population.
No, I'm saying why it's important question to ask. Ask. Because if 1/4 of the population of the earth believes in Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it's only reasonable to ask why so. That's all I'm asking. It doesn't prove that he's a prophet. It only makes the importance of the question being asked is important. Yeah, very important. Right. What we say is, he is a prophet not of his own making. God chose him to be a prophet and established through him proofs and evidences for his prophethood. Okay? So his own self as a person, as his own character, testifies to that event of prophethood. Because a prophet, you expect, start from the start. What would be the characteristics of when God chooses a prophet or a messenger? Yeah? A prophet and a messenger is someone who's going to convey a message to the people from God. So they are the spokesperson of God to communicate a message to the people. So you would expect the messenger to have certain characteristics, obviously. So if the messenger, one of the characteristics of the messenger is this prophet of the messenger, or this particular warner or glad tider who gives glad tidings, someone who is of a very bad character, someone who lies, someone he is not truthful, someone who's not trustworthy. If that person comes along and says, God has made me a prophet, you would not believe in him, because you know this person doesn't speak the truth.
He has more wives, several wives, and wives who are very...
How would having 2 wives or 3 wives somehow make you not a prophet of God, or make you not a truthful? We'll come to this point.
Or
okay.
A 9-year-old.
Let me address this about marriages. When Abraham married a slave girl like Hagar, so that was his second wife, because she was given as a wife to Abraham.
Yeah, but it was your point. It wasn't mine.
No, please. I'm just saying, if marrying more than one or marrying someone old or young is a reason to question the prophethood of a prophet, then we need to address this point. So let's talk about Abraham and all the other prophets in the Old Testament in the Jewish times. Solomon, for example, he had 700 or so concubines. Now, does that somehow remove him from his office of prophethood from God's eyes? I don't think so. Abraham, the patriarch of Jewish, Christian and Muslim people, right? Our 3 religions, we call him the patriarch. Now, he had more than 1 wife. Now, and in fact, that was a slave woman that was given, right? Does that somehow take him away from his prophethood? Does it?
Is your point that Muhammad in some kind of way was a very moral being, righteous being? Is that your point?
I've already alluded to the character. The character is important, but in terms of
is that the evidence that he's a prophet, that he was a righteous being? And then you're saying that to marry a 9-year-old is not something wrong.
You seem to have a problem with marrying someone young, maybe someone old. So let's address that.
I do.
Let's address that. Okay. No, let's address that first. Okay. Anyone to be a prophet of God, if someone marries a 14-year-old, would that be an obstacle to become a prophet? Or someone who marries, in fact, okay, why am I just asking a rhetorical question? Do you know, in Jewish teaching, you should get married before the age of 15. For 14 years old, you should get married. All the marriages in the past in the Jewish traditions were before the age of the 14.
It doesn't matter. You're making the point that Muhammad was a righteous person. I'm not saying that you need to be a righteous person to be a prophet. That was your words, if I understand
You see,
if I didn't understand
I did not. Okay,
please
fine.
Explain to me what you were trying to say by saying that Muhammad was a righteous person. Because
Fine.
I can't see it like.
Let me explain.
He was a man of warfare. Like in my eyes,
sure, is warfare another obstacle? Fine. Another
If you would
point.
have said that you don't have to be a righteous person, then it would be no problem.
Okay,
But
let's address that
seems
point.
To me that's what you wanted to do.
Let's address that point. Remember what I said. His character also testifies to the office of prophethood. But I said, as God chooses someone to be a prophet, he did not make himself a prophet. So God chooses whom he places his
Then he asked
message.
for the evidence.
If you see, one second. I was just explaining that the prophet didn't make him a prophet. God makes him a prophet and gives proofs and evidence of his prophethood and messengership. That's what I said. I have not shared you any of those proof and evidences. Instead, what I said, even his character points to his being a prophet. And I said, let's understand this from the scratch. A prophet, to be a prophet of God, there has to be certain characteristics that they should uphold. If that prophet, one who's claiming to be a prophet, was a liar, would you trust this individual to be a prophet of God? Was my question. I give you an example. If someone comes along and is known to their people, the society at that time, that person cheats, lies, is untrustworthy, not truthful, would anyone place a trust in that person to be God's spokesperson?
No.
I would say no. So essentially what we are saying is one of the important characteristics of a prophet has to be being truthful and being trustworthy. Now, Prophet Muhammad...
Isn't another characteristic that, like...
there are many...
for example, that you have seen God and actually spoken directly to God.
Remember,
isn't that also one
we are establishing...
Isn't that also one of the characteristics that...
Let's have a look.
Because you see all the people in the Bible, they would meet, and then comes this guy who's coming 600 years later.
Can we establish...
Then he's never even met God.
Sure.
And then,
can we establish point by point, right?
So that,
because we're moving away from several points.
Is an important criteria.
Sure. Yeah. The criteria I'm laying down, remember, the criteria I'm laying down is something that I'm asking you, do you agree with them? You agreed. Yeah. So, and you brought forth further criteria. We can address those criteria.
Do you agree with that?
No.
Do you agree with that?
One second.
One criteria is to me.
According to our Islamic tradition, our Prophet ﷺ, yes, he went and he spoke to God directly.
Muhammad spoke to God?
Yes.
He met God?
Yes.
Personally?
Yes. So you didn't know that. So the criteria is already met.
Where is that written? Where?
In our traditions.
Oh, where? Which book?
The traditions of Isra and Mi'raj is called...
Can you show me where?
Bear with me.
You can show me, because I don't think you can show me.
Bear with me.
That Muhammad met you just told me that Muhammad met directly with God, and he met personally with God. That Muhammad talked to God like a person to person. That's what you just told me.
Yes.
Can you show me?
Sure. Of course we can.
Show me?
I'm just saying we can. So relax.
Where?
If I'm about to give you, don't say where. I can understand that you have not come across this because perhaps your knowledge about Islam isn't to that level yet. No problem. I am saying this event is known as Isra and Mi'raj in our Islamic tradition. Isra refers to the travel from Mecca to Jerusalem. And the Mi'raj refers to from Bayt al-Maqdis, Masjid al-Aqsa, from Jerusalem to the farthest heaven. That is called Mi'raj, ascending to heaven. Now at one point, even the angel Gabriel who was accompanying him, he says, I cannot go any further. Now you go alone. So the Prophet goes alone, and then he passed the Sidratul Muntaha, the last, what we call the boundaries of everything that you can have beyond the seven heavens, and then he meets God. What we say is, there is a veil in between God and the Prophet. Veil, yes? So God speaks behind the veil. Some of our traditions say, yes, God, he sees his Lord. Another says, no, he didn't see his Lord, it is this veil. So if I were to even show up now, look, open up anywhere, Mi'raj,
So he went all
Yes,
the way
yes.
up to the heaven.
Look. No. I'm giving you evidence, right?
It's your traditions also say, by your own traditions, Muhammad, when he got the first revelation, he didn't even know.
Sorry.
He didn't even.
Could we
know
discuss one point at a time?
If it was an angel.
It seems like.
Or if it was the devil.
No. It seems.
He didn't even know.
Excuse me.
It
seems.
For me, I think that's strange.
No.
I find it very odd and very strange.
Look.
And for you then telling me that was a personal relationship with God, when Muhammad even himself did not understand, that's really strange.
Look.
I find it really strange.
Brother, one moment.
Okay.
We need to. No, excuse me. He's going to listen to me.
I'll let him.
Thank you, brother. What seems to be happening is you asked one question, and on the backbone of that question, we have several other peripheral questions. Now, it is only important to keep the original question in mind.
Evidence.
And the question about prophethood. How is he a prophet of God? What evidence? Remember what we talked about? So I said, I will entertain the question that you asked about this young marriage and also about warfare that you brought along. What has warfare to do with evidence? I will ask. Didn't Moses fight wars? Does that stop him from being a prophet? No, it doesn't. So this is really totally irrelevant point that was made.
You brought up that the evidence is his character.
Listen.
So if you're not saying that, I don't want any evidence which has to do with character at all.
If you want to maintain the continuity, so as I said, two things. One is the evidence that God places on the prophet for the proof of prophethood.
What evidence?
That's what I'm giving you yet.
Yeah, can you tell us?
Yeah. But I asked you about the characters. So you agreed it's important to have the characters to be in place, truthful and trustworthy. So I'm just going to tell you that, and I've affirmed to you, he was known as Sadiq al-Amin. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was known as the most trustworthy, most truthful by his own people. So that's already attested by the community. Now, what evidence did Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have? So remind me about ascensions and Miraj, because it seems to like we cannot just go into every question, focus on the main, and we will touch on the periphery as we need. Right. Go ahead. Say and then we come back.
No, but I want to say, but you said that, but he was illiterate though. He couldn't read or write. So how could he have preached the verses, the revelations?
Okay.
When he was he couldn't read or write.
Very nice question. Now, do you speak Arabic? Right. Let's say you don't speak Arabic from his own admission. I'm going to give you 2-3 words. See if you can convey that 3 words to the people, because that is based on your illiteracy of Arabic language. قل هو الله أحد. قل هو الله أحد. Now it means say Allah is one. Now can you convey that message? قل, say to them, قل هو الله أحد. Now
But this isn't evidence.
wait, were you able to convey this message to the people who may know Arabic, like I know Arabic, you may know Arabic, he may know Arabic, and we've understood? Even you not knowing even the basic letters of Arabic alphabet, you were able to convey it. Do you see? Just being literate in this form of someone who writes it doesn't make them unable or not able to convey the message. For example, the disciples of Jesus Christ, we know they are ordinary fishermen. They are not literate people. They didn't write and compose the Gospels. Yet they conveyed the message. And it was written down by other people. So it doesn't stop them. Now, about the prophet's proof of his prophethood. So we say God gave him so many evidence for his prophethood. They come in the form of miracles which cannot be replicated. Miracles which cannot be imitated. Like there are more than 300 authenticated miracles of the Prophet. How many have you heard of the miracles of the Prophet Muhammad? From your reading, this is just to tell me that how much you've read. How many?
For that?
I know a miracle.
In our tradition, there are more than 300 authenticated miracles of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Can I say something?
Brother, just 1 second, you will. How many have you heard about the authenticated miracles of Prophet Muhammad?
I know a miracle. Shall I say a miracle?
No, before you say that,
Go ahead.
No, like for example, they said that Muhammad split the moon in half. That's one of the Prophet Muhammad, he split the moon.
yeah. So in our tradition, this is one of them.
That's what they.
Now, this is one of them.
Yeah.
That Prophet split the moon. So now we know that you've heard one.
I've heard of that.
How many others have you heard of out of the 300 authenticated means that are sound to us? There are many, more than 300.
But it's for me, like, if I want to believe something, I really need good evidence. I can't believe in
No,
anything.
good evidence means
I know what
evidence of his actions of miracles.
Like, I can't believe in anything.
You said
Like,
that,
I need really good evidence.
You said that.
before I believe something.
You said that Muhammad did 300 miracles. Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
Authenticated.
But why is it not in the Quran? Like the way Jesus did miracles in the Quran.
Yeah.
How come they didn't write those miracles?
One second.
in the Quran, like they did
No,
with
the
Jesus?
Quran says that people, they don't normally want to believe in signs of God. Yeah? But the Quran gives signs after signs and they turn away. Quran talks about the splitting of the moon, but the Quran talks about the Quran itself as the most self-evident, eternal, everlasting miracle. And this is the most important miracle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, I want to ask you about this. Jesus Christ, you know Jesus Christ in Christianity.
Yeah.